Life imprisonment is genuinely on the table for Andrew Tate right now, and yet the more you actually dig into how this case is structured, the less any of it holds together. That contradiction is what this video is about.
The final question, if they were convicted on all counts of all these charges, what kind of sentence could they be looking at?
The rest of their lives in prison. I mean, and that's just in the UK.
Something I covered in the last video has now been confirmed properly. Despite the family connections and years of association, Donald Trump will not be getting involved or intervening in the extradition of the Tate brothers to Britain. People online are describing it as getting backdoored. Took the support, took the votes, walked away. CNN has confirmed it.
Look at his face. That's the face of evil. Keir, when you lock me up in Belmarsh, which I know you're going to do, that's fine.
Both brothers have now had their first court appearance since the arrest, and predictably, this is heading straight into delays. As of Monday afternoon, Andrew and Tristan both remain in custody, with CNN reaching out to the Florida Attorney General's office for details on where and how they're being held. The judge made a point of clarifying that Monday's hearing wasn't a criminal proceeding, and the extradition process hasn't formally completed. Over the coming weeks, a US district judge decides whether they meet the conditions for extradition. Here's the part I find genuinely confusing, guys. Britain itself has said it's waiting for the Romanian investigation to conclude before taking him, and that Romanian investigation got an update in July, confirming it's still active and ongoing.
This involves, there's an English element here, so obviously it's important that justice is done, and human trafficking is obviously, to my mind, a security. This is a live issue, as he'll appreciate, and therefore I'll tread carefully, but the principle is absolutely clear. Justice must be done in all cases, including in this case. But I won't go into the details because this is a live case, as you know.
America and Britain share an extradition treaty, meaning each has agreed to hand over individuals wanted by the other for prosecution. On paper, this should happen immediately. What complicates it is that live Romanian case sitting in the middle of everything. That's precisely why this became a political issue in the first place. Too many countries involved.
Remember, the time I felt it the most was when I was on house arrest. I've been arrested by the Romanians twice, I've been charged with 21 crimes, and the Brits issued an extradition warrant, and I went to jail again for 24 hours, and the Romanian judge said that we're not going to send him to England until his Romanian case is finished. And I said to my lawyer, what does this mean? And he said, of those 21 charges, if you get convicted to jail, you're going to serve 10 years in jail in Romania, and then go to England back to jail, and start all your criminal cases in England. I was like, what if I don't go to jail? He goes, well, then you're going to go to court for years, and after that, when all the charges are done, you're going to send to England and do your criminal case there. I said, so you're telling me for the next 10 years of my life, I'm going to be locked in my house, locked in jail, or going to court in 2 different countries? And he goes, yeah. And that was one of the days where I went from 100% power down to maybe 99%. That day.
The Justice Department has confirmed the arrests were carried out in line with the treaties and law enforcement agreements governing extradition. It may have been executed at state level, but a source told CNN the arrests were signed off by leadership within the Justice Department's criminal division. Meanwhile, the Tate's lawyers argue the UK's extradition request interferes with their existing Romanian case, and apparently with one they have in Florida too.
Today wasn't about controversy. Today was about just enforcing Mr. Tate's, Andrew and Tristan Tate's rights and objecting to the extradition process. We are, of course, objecting to extradition because Andrew and Tristan are innocent. They've never done nothing wrong. They shouldn't be extradited for crimes they did not commit. They're entitled to have their day of court that we've been litigating the case for 3 years in Palm Beach County in Florida. So we're fighting extradition. We've assembled a team here. These are from the Roy Black's prestigious firm. The Honorable and since passed on Roy Black, he's a legend, and they're here. They have joined our team. We have a competent team. We have a wonderful team. We're looking forward to getting the best possible result under the sun. Proceedings have now started in this courtroom, so I am less liberal with what I'm able to say. But if you have any questions for me, I'll do my best to answer them in a way that's respectful of your time, of our time, and of the court processes.
Britain has clearly made its decision. They want him back as fast as possible, armed with 59 charges and a plan to remand him straight into prison. Here's how the process actually runs. The CPS prepares the request, a judge certifies it, then it goes to the Home Office, which forwards the extradition request through standard diplomatic channels. Acceptance is decided by the US State Department, the request gets considered by American courts, and the final call belongs to the Secretary of State, so the legalities still need reviewing, along with whether the UK's case is valid. But ultimately, that final decision sits with a man Trump happens to have a very good working relationship with.
They acknowledge that the brothers...
Go ahead.
They acknowledge in court that the brothers reviewed the complaint with them. Could you explain their first reaction to these allegations?
Their first reaction to the allegations is the first reaction that any innocent man or woman would have. It's garbage. It's a stitch-up job. They're after us to punish us with the process. The process is the punishment. When you drag somebody's name through the media, when you slander them, when you defame them, when you accuse them of heinous and terrible allegations, the process becomes the punishment until you can clear your name. They've been clearing their names domestically and abroad for years. This is just the next logical conclusion in that situation. Keir Starmer just retired or is retiring. I'm sure he's mad that Andrew and Tristan Tate had a lot to do with his fall in Great Britain. And there's a new guy in there right now. But this is the last vestige of attack of a prime minister who didn't do a good job, and he continues to do bad work. And I'll just leave it there. Innocent until proven guilty. We're going to let the court process play out here the way that it should. We're happy to be here.
Mr. McBride, the U.S.-UK treaty allows an exception for extradition if the charges are politically motivated.
Right.
What you're saying,
politically motivated? I think any one of these trees or any one of these rocks could answer that question. Yes, it's politically motivated. There's no question about it. These guys went to D.C. to exercise their First Amendment rights. They met with members of Congress as private citizens. They met with friends in Washington, D.C. They walked the grounds of the Capitol, and 3 days later, they're in the jumpsuit. You do the math.
and that's the tool that you're going to use to get them free.
The former UK Prime Minister badly wanted Tate behind bars. He was asked about it constantly throughout his time in office. It almost looks like getting the Tate situation resolved was his final act before stepping down, particularly after Tate had been saying things like this publicly, openly predicting Starmer would eventually put him in Belmarsh.
His face. That's the face of evil. Keir, when you lock me up in Belmarsh, which I know you're going to do, that's fine. That is the face of evil, sir. Look at that. That is incompetence incarnate. Look, that's not a leader. England was the greatest country in the world. I watched. It brought tears to my eyes. I watched the Battle of Cairo. I watched Nelson fight the French fleet. A YouTube video. At the Battle of Cairo, I even tweeted it in full. The heroism showed by the Brits only 200 years ago. These were the best men on the planet. Thailand, tiny island with the largest empire in history. I was in America till I was 8, but I spent my teenage years in the UK. I feel very British. The British were the hardest, strongest, most resilient people on the planet. When the British were coming, only the Americans seemed to have beat them. You were scared when the British were coming. We sailed all around the world. Opioid wars in China, Battle of Cairo, Waterloo, you name it. We beat Napoleon. We did, the Brits. And now look, soy face is locking us up for having an opinion. And we're sitting there on our asses, afraid to say anything. This exact clip will be played in front of a judge when they lock me up. But it has to be said, because that is not the leader of the United Kingdom. That is not the leader the United Kingdom deserves. We need, UK is an even more dire scenario than the United States. We need Trump or someone Trump-esque. And Nigel Farage isn't up to the task. He's not strong enough. It's me or I don't know who else. But UK is in a mess. We need someone of Trump's level to fix it. Because this guy, Keir, is doing nothing but run it into the ground. And it really, truly breaks my heart because the UK was the greatest country on earth. And that's why I want to become the Prime Minister, to restore it to its former...
Nobody escapes justice indefinitely. At some point, he has to come to Britain and answer these allegations. But there's a route where they get released, and it involves Romania stepping in and saying something like, "We have excellent relationships with both America and the UK, no issues here, but you're interfering with what we're trying to do with Andrew Tate. It's not finished. Yes, it's taken years, but we believe we finally have the case." Things could genuinely land that way round. One of the last things Tate said about Keir Starmer came as news broke that he was resigning and going through a rough stretch. Tate claimed he'd learned that someone connected to Starmer was behind his entire downfall and that he had the paperwork proving it.
Mr. Keir Starmer, I heard you're in a little bit of trouble. I've got bad news for you because you're in a whole bunch more. I'm here in America and I've just been handed a document which proves that Morgan McSweeney, who was your chief of staff under the Labour government, was behind the entire attack that happened against me. It breaks international law. It completely breaks the presumption of innocence. It shows the corruption of the British state. You are worse than a communist. You're a scumbag. Everybody hates you. Everybody hates you. You have no public support. Nobody believes the things you say about me. Nobody supports you. And I now have the paperwork. So now I have to decide which judge sees these papers and where I take you and your entire cabal of corrupt pieces of shit who have completely destroyed the once great Britain. All of you scumbags, and Morgan McSweeney especially, are going to see a courtroom, and you are going to face justice for what you have done in your attempt to silence me.
The person Tate believes set him up, Morgan McSweeney, is a well-known political strategist who served as chief of staff at Downing Street under Starmer. He resigned in February 2026 after advising Starmer to appoint Peter Mandelson as US ambassador, a controversial decision amid the fallout from the Epstein files. He recommended somebody who appeared in those files. In typical fashion, Tate had an unreleased podcast ready to go the moment he was arrested, and in it, he repeats the same argument, that the British government is setting him up because he keeps speaking out against them.
They have one move left. They tried the letters, that ain't gonna work. They tried the money 2 days ago, that ain't gonna work. They're going to try to kill me. And if they are successful, if they do kill me, all I hope is that this video is watched by as many people as possible so that something happens and changes. Because if you're a man who speaks the truth, your ability to speak freely is directly correlated to your insignificance. You are only allowed to talk the truth if nobody listens to you. If people are listening to you, if you become the most Googled man on the planet and you're saying the right things, they will do everything they fucking can to take you down.
Something barely anyone is mentioning is that Tate has already lost a case in the UK. There are 59 charges, which sounds devastating, but his team knows nothing about who's actually accusing them or any real detail behind it. They filed a court document specifically requesting the identities of the alleged victims so they could build a defense, and it got rejected and thrown out. They won't learn the specifics of their own case until they're physically there.
I'm not going to comment as to the women in any case. What I can say is that we have a defamation lawsuit against a false accuser that we're litigating successfully in Palm Beach County. That case is getting ready to go to trial. What I can say about the allegations in the United Kingdom, not a single solitary person has been identified. These are ghosts and these are phantoms. So we like to know who's accused Andrew and Tristan of what. And if we get there, then I can give you a reasonable-minded and intelligent comment about the potential allegations that come from these ladies. That was a reference to the Supreme Court. This is the judicial process. The top of the food chain is Clarence Thomas and the 8 other justices that abide there.
The brothers had been extremely comfortable in America, moving freely between states, and by all accounts their immediate reaction to the arrest was total shock. You can see it in the footage. It came out of nowhere. They'd always known the UK case would surface eventually, and spoke about it openly, even predicting Belmarsh. What they didn't expect was now, and they clearly believed the Trump administration gave them an additional layer of protection.
Their initial reaction was, what's going on? We've been in the United States hanging out on multiple trips for a very long time. We haven't been accused of anything of substance here. We're American citizens. We operate freely. We operate as law-abiding people. We went to see our Congress people in D.C. and now we're getting arrested. This feels political, and of course they didn't like it. No innocent man likes getting taken to jail. It's a horrible situation, but we're going to do everything that we can do with this wonderful team that we've assembled here to get them out. This is not a criminal proceeding, and what the judge was talking about is that the Bail Reform Act isn't the operative law here. We're looking at the extradition process. This is the first small step in that process. There's a lawyers-only conference coming up in a few days. Our legal team will talk to the government will talk to our team, we'll converse with the judge, we'll set a briefing schedule for substantive arguments to be made at some point in the future.
Their lawyer also raised the conditions they're being held under while waiting on this decision. Both are in solitary confinement. They're classified as vulnerable prisoners because their fame makes them targets, and with child-related allegations attached to their names, that vulnerability increases significantly.
Universally condemned around the world as universal as torture, as a human rights violation. So anytime you keep somebody in solitary confinement, what you're doing is you're keeping them there to break their spirit, to break their soul, and to break the psychology of the mind. It is an egregious misuse of the judicial system. And by the way, Andrew and Tristan have not been convicted of any crime. The Fifth Amendment of the United States protects them. It's not the standard of cruel and unusual punishment that the Eighth Amendment gives. It is the Fifth Amendment person. No innocent person can be punished while they're being held for any proceeding. Innocent and proven guilty, solitary confinement is punishment. It should not happen. My understanding is we're working to get them out of there as soon as possible. But if they're left in there for reasons that we won't be able to talk about right now, I'll be sure to let you know in my Twitter post. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless you all. God bless Andrew and Tristan Tate. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you in a few weeks.
So that's where things sit, guys. Britain wants him immediately, Romania won't let go, America has stepped back entirely, and the man himself is in solitary waiting on a judge. Whichever way this breaks, it's going to take months. If you got something out of this, drop a like. It helps this channel more than most people realize. And if you're new around here, this is Creator Pulse, so subscribe and let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Catch you in the next one.